How do you make traveling from city to city or across town interesting? Keeping the party interested when you're traveling from town to town takes some different approaches, but they're all following into the same idea that things should be unique in your world that attract attention. The example I like to give is Skyrim. Just walking through Skyrim and even the Oblivion or Morrowind, if you've ever played those, there are things all over the world that are not part of the main quest. So when they've got to travel from some small town to another small town, some DMs figure out, we'll just roll it once a day to see if there is some sort of encounter, and it's about as boring as talking in monotone. And you just roll, and it's so. No. I don't believe in things like that, because, I'll roll occasionally to see if there's an encounter, but that's not the key. The key is the journey itself should be interesting. You're traveling from one town to another town. If you've ever seen, On the Road or some of these various people who do travel across the country, there are things to see. There are things to do. You're traveling across. I remember as a young boy going with my family, and we went out someplace. It was down in the southern parts of Utah, and we're driving along, and we stop. And the reason we stop, we're on a 2-lane highway. It looks like in the middle of the desert, and there's a little bridge going over some sort of creek or something like that. But we stop rather abruptly, and we get out of the car. And the reason we get out of the car is across the road, the 2 lanes, is a snake. It actually was a rattlesnake. It had been run over. We get out, and my dad was disappointed because somebody cut both the head and the tail off of the rattlesnake. Somewhere, and I may or may not still have it, I had a rattle from a real rattlesnake. Somebody had gotten and preserved, but it was a little rattle, and that would rattle. That's an interesting thing. But you're walking along, you just find some roadkill. Whatever. Now then, it can be anything, could be run over, but it's in the road. For those of you who drive along in certain parts of the country, if you're observant, just driving down the road, there are little markers in the center of the road. The one that is probably the most common, particularly in this area where I live, are these little blue markers. They're the little blue markers in the center of the road, and what it means is that on one side or the other side of the road is a fire hydrant. There are also other markers. I looked it up. There are red and yellow, and red means that you're going the wrong way, and things like that. But there are markers that you can that are put in current roads today. That we have that. So what happened? Think about this. Your party is traveling down the road, and it's a cobblestone road, and you suddenly notice that in the center of the road, one of the stones is blue. Well, you may want to just ignore it and keep going on. That's fine, but it may cause some curiosity. What is it? Why is there a blue marker? Well, it may mean that there is a source of water off to the side, perhaps, when somebody built the road, or, a different colored stone in the road, roadkill. Parties that I've done in there, it says the squirrels and the birds may do various things. I've had not your average monster, but the squirrels pelt the party as they walk along with acorns for some reason, because they've upset the squirrels. So I've had a rabbit come up and look at them and stare at them intently, and then hop away. So you can introduce interesting things. If you've watched the Blair Witch Project, one of the things that sets the atmosphere are where they find the little wooden sculptures up in the trees and so on. So if you're walking along, this may not be your main quest. You're just going from town A to town B. but there are things that you can inject in there to do things. My sort of goal when I DM is how often can I distract the party? What I mean by that is I give them a quest, and as they're going along, I like to throw other little tidbits in there so that they think about, oh, well, maybe we should go investigate that instead. Going back to the example of Skyrim, you're just walking along and you see some ruins off to the side. Well, you could introduce ruins, which introduces whole event dungeons and so on. But what happens if it's just a lone farmhouse? There's a lonely old farmer over there who may or may not want to trade with you, who may have some other stories, who may have some other rumors or legends, or he may just ask you, hey, there's this old stump out here that I need to get pulled out, and my back is bothering me. Could you pull it out? Well, that may cause that you could have a whole host of things going on like that, or it could just be pulling out the stump. Depends upon what you want to do, but don't leave your thing like, oh, I got to roll to see if there is something happening today. I listened to one blog where I give them different odds and so on, but it's still just rolling to see if they're there. Give them, the party, something interesting. Don't just say, oh, you walked through another hex and there's nothing going on. Make it an adventure. That's what it is. Is there funny looking clouds in the sky? What does that mean? They're out at night. In the dark, you look up at the sky. Is there a comet? Is there a strange meteor shower? How you can introduce whole bunch of things just as they're going along. It'll use your imagination, and like I mentioned in a previous video, record your ideas down in books or notes or someplace where you can refer to them later on and come up with these ideas to inject into your adventures interesting things. They may be mundane, they may be new. It could just be a funny shaped rock that's polished and shiny, and you sort of wonder about that. It could just be a polished rock. Somebody's there. You could find little figures that are whittled over that are sitting off to the side. Somebody was bored and whittled up a figure, but there may be a story behind them. You're in a magical environment, so you may make magical things. You find a child's doll that's discarded beside the road. Well, some probably little girl, that's sexist, okay, but it's little girl lost their doll. Returning the doll may be a good thing. It says, now, is it just a normal little doll? Is it magical? Now, think about this. What was the Arthur C. Clarke's saying is that the difference between magic and technology, there's no difference between magically, or I can't remember the quote, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So if you have a doll, when you pick it up and it goes, wah, okay, today you see dolls that talk when you pick them up and move them and do various things. But in a fantasy world, that's magic. Is it that really wild? Does it do anything else? It just, it says, pick up the doll and it goes, take me to your leader. Whole bunch of weird things you can do very simply with just a little bit of magic that is mundane. It's not magic, really things. It's really unseen servant and magic mouth can be infused in many different things, which would be if they were that common. And so you could do them for child's toys. I did a whole bunch of adventures with little tin men, little toy soldiers. But you can introduce whole new ideas that are there. They find, just a comb and brush set that fell out of somebody's wagon as they were moving along. And it grows hair, or it doesn't grow hair. Or it makes you grow beard. Whatever. Little things like that can cause interest, and it's not just this, we've got 21 days to get to the next town. That means we're going to roll 21 times to see if something happens. That's absolutely boring. But introduce new things to the party as they're walking along. And your characters will love it, and you will enjoy it too, because they may go off in total different direction, which is when some of the best adventures are, is when it's total, you've thrown them a little idea of something, you know, the doll, and it's got some name. My mother used to make Cabbage Patch dolls for Christmas for a lot of people, and she had her own little signature that she put on the dolls because they were all handmade. And so you find this handmade doll and there's a signature on it or something like that, so you can track down who made it and or who it belongs to. So you can do that. If it's something carved, if it's something unique, it's something that's there. So don't just have these boring adventures. I've heard where you put weather and all that. Still isn't, unless the weather has something unique about it. You know, you meet a character and there's a rain cloud hanging over him, and everywhere he goes it rains. Now that's interesting. How did the guy get cursed like that? Do you want to talk to him? Are you afraid to talk to him because you'll get the curse? Various things like that. You meet a hitchhiker. There's a whole interesting potential for adventures going on. So don't just fall into the routine, mundane trap of, oh, we moved another square and we have to roll to see if there's an encounter. Just total boring. Make your adventures interesting. I look forward to learning what you think about this video. Let me know in the comments below. If there's something you'd like me to cover, please add that in a comment. If you like the video, press the thumbs up button. If you don't like the video, give me a thumbs down. I appreciate both. If you're new here and want to subscribe, you can click on my icon on the left, or if you're interested, there is more content on the right. Thank you.